good evening, and good night. You know what it is. It's Layer1Live. We're coming to you live every week, bringing you the hottest crypto news, talking to the lads community. Damn, we're going to have ourselves a good episode here. It seems like every time we try to kind of get our heads around the crypto landscape, something new pops up, man. So definitely going to discuss a lot on this episode. Dima, what's going on this week for you, my man?
Yeah, man, it's definitely an interesting week. We finally have volatility in the game, so markets are becoming very, very interesting. So that always gets me exciting, because we've been moving sideways for so long,
Mm.
and finally we're breaking out. So good
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely, man. And it's a shout out to all the lads. We've got Scott, we've got Kieran, Rise of King Fresh. I don't know if you're a lad, man. You need to get yourself in the Telegram group, find yourself into our community, and you can call yourself a lad. Although those of you that have been out there following us that maybe aren't in the Telegram community, you're an honorary lad yourself. So we are all gonna have ourselves a good episode here. Ton of stuff to get to. Let me get to a little bit of it. Definitely, we have some team updates to get to. We've got 1.4 Billy liquidated in like the matter of an hour. We saw that alt season that was happening, and we had kind of our like a flash crash happen. So Dima's going to touch on that. We've got a couple quick news surrounding like Kieran's saying Zues Capital kind of going on a vendetta for Link. I'm sure they've got their short position set up. Who knows who knows what happens there? We have some discussion pieces. One of them surrounding Ava Labs, and then the other surrounding ETH's birthday. ETH celebrated its fifth birthday. Congratulations! Confetti flying in the air. And then we have some Ethereum news, EOS news, DeFi, and NFTs, and that will be the wrap up for the episode, man. So from the past week, man, what's been going on with you? Have you anything in the crypto space kind of popped off for
Yeah,
you?
I mean, Ethereum has been very good to me, so I've been scalping that thing throughout the week. We've been kind of talking about it.
Mm.
I'm definitely going to talk about the flash crash. I don't want to say it's a flash crash, but it was definitely some, downside volatility in a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good because I actually got out right before that happened. That was actually more luck than prediction.
Yep.
But if I didn't get out, then I would have my stop loss where I would get out, before it dumped like that far. So, yeah. So risk management is a huge thing. I wanted to ask you: are you drinking beer right now? Is
No,
there a
no. So
morning beer
I
right
could
here?
no, I couldn't find my coffee cup, man. I couldn't. This is
Okay,
coffee,
man.
guys. I'm not a degenerate. It is not. That's how you know it's alt season if I'm drinking in the morning. But anyways, this is going to be a great episode, guys. We got about 10, 11 now in the chat, so we appreciate you guys showing up. Brandon's in the chat. What's going on? He says, sup, lads. We're getting a ton of lad shout outs. Everybody's getting a 50 lads for popping in today. Boom. A
Boom.
couple updates to get to. We released our Layer 1 weekly update here. I'm not going to block us this time. Dimitri told me after the episode that we need to put it over to our right. So I'm going to put it over to our right. We're going to cover everybody that's chatting. So we got the Layer 1 weekly update here, guys. If you haven't already, and I'll update the description once we get Dimitri talking, but I'm going to drop all the links. All you'll do is refresh your YouTube once I tell you to, and you'll see all the links that we're talking about today. One of them being this Layer 1 weekly update that's on our Substack. If you haven't checked out our Substack, basically you're going to go there. That's going to be quote unquote like our website, our homepage, our headquarters for getting you all the information, our blog essentially. So not much from the weekly update this week other than a community recap. We added 11 members, so shout out to all the members that added this week. Sid, Ronan, Nen, we have to shout out here in a second, but ton of people in the Layer 1 community now that weren't even there a week ago. We have the lads leaderboard, Sahil up top with 300 lads. We're planning on rolling out utility for these lads other than getting shoutouts on Layer 1. And you guys should be getting those updates shortly. Content from the week, we obviously have Layer1Live that we're doing right now at Dimitri's desk. NFT Live, Layer 1 interviews, and the upcoming schedule. Dima, I'm sorry for not adding the sentiment analysis. I just realized that I didn't put the sentiment analysis. Head on over to Dimitri's Twitter, and we will bring the sentiment analysis every week in this Layer 1 update, guys. So that's pretty much the update there. We had one lad of the week. That's going to be Nen. Nen's been killing it. We appreciate all the support from you guys. And then the last bit of Layer 1 news. Bitcoin prediction stakes. we have to talk about why Dimitri hasn't got off the blocks yet. so we've got the Bitcoin stakes guys here. If you can see it, I know it's blocked a little bit. We've got no movement this week on the images, and I'll update these images here. But we had, I believe, Tomas, ODOT, and myself move up. They predicted the correct range of, I believe it was 11.25 to 11.500, and it's around that range, as you guys can see. So those guys will be moving up. They'll receive some lads. I get 150 lads for every win. People are going to start stacking these lads up, and then obviously at the end of the month, you get a BTC reward for being the winner of Bitcoin stakes, man.
Hell yeah. Yo, how about we take a second and take a look at the Doge in the background there creeping.
Oh yeah. Is he there? There you go.
Yeah, look at that.
That is Shep, guys. Shep is making his debut appearance. He's having a good time. He's looking at you, Dima.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I'm just waiting for him to like poop on the bed or something.
That's the viral content we need. All right, guys. Again, Layer1Live, we're going to be bringing you everything. I'm going to update this while Dima gets into the breaking news of the week. And we will continue through the episode. Appreciate everybody that has hopped in up to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kick this off with the breaking news. So obviously the breaking news is the fact that there were quite a bit of liquidations recently, due to the recent move that we had in volatility. We had $1.4 billion in dollars worth of liquidations. And you just got to keep in mind, that's something that I've tweeted out also, is just, you have in crypto, you have like cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, ETH, they'll move like, up 20%. That will take six days to, get to those percentage points to the upside. But then when the unwinding happens, it happens rapid, and we dropped like, I believe it was like 12%, something on BTC. And then on ETH, it was like 20%. So basically, it was very aggressive and very rapid. It was like within 5 minutes. So you have to understand, obviously, there's quite a bit of leverage that's being used, especially for the people that are trying to FOMO in. They see the pattern, the trend is going up, everything is rallying, so they end up FOMO in, and then they use some leverage to it. So basically, if you had like anything 10 to 1, you basically got liquidated there. So it just shows you, how risky the market still is. And, those new players that are entering that might not be experienced, basically contribute to the liquidations that we see, and, overall though, with the 1.4 billion in liquidations, which we haven't seen in a while, this, as far as the downside risk, wasn't that bad, compared to what we've seen in the past, right? This could have escalated much further, but given the kind of the appetite right now, as far as the traders go, to chase the risk, chase the yield, they were quickly to get back in and to pick up, ETH and BTC at cheaper prices and provide that support. So we didn't really, continue to move downward as far as the price goes. So liquidations will happen, it's just, you have to manage your risk. You have to be careful when these things happen. And, I did an episode how to not to buy the top, right? So it's like, we kind of knew this moment is going to happen, and I warned people that it's going to happen. And then eventually it kind of came. So, that's just the way the market is.
Yeah, man, and we had that rolling stops discussion. As you see such a volatile market, you want to continuously kind of update where you're setting your stops. And I don't know if you want to touch on that like very briefly, but as you continue to go up, you see these volatile kind of moves where you're getting like 15% down in like the matter of, hours, even minutes if some people were, in that situation. But what is the situation with rolling stops, and what do you do in that scenario? I know this is a Dimitri's desk conversation, but as you see like a huge pump, how do you manage your position when you're up maybe 20, 30, 40%, and then you see like a flash crash that might happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So trailing stops, they're obviously very useful, and trailing stops, they perform the best when the market is slowly creeping higher. So like I said, 6 days that we rallied like 20%, right? using a trailing stop was perfect for that. You just set it up in increments. Let's say, all right, if my position goes up every 5%, my trailing stop is going to move 5% from what I set it,
Got it.
right? So it's starting to start locking in some profits. And then if, we do have this moment where things start unwinding rapidly, you do have your stop loss that gets you out in profit and you're good to go. Now, the wrong way of using it is if you're trying to buy when things are escalating to the downside. So what we had, where we had price just dropping rapidly, if you start buying and using trailing stop, that's where you get super chopped up, because the volatility and the gaps in liquidity is there. So you see prices jump like rapidly, $10 up, $10 down, and your trailing stop just keeps moving, and then you get stopped down, and it's just a mess.
Yeah,
Right.
especially when the market's like trending in one direction, right? You could literally have a quick wick down, and this is actually what happened with Kieran. Kieran was in the Telegram chat.
Oh, he's in chat
he's
right
in the
now.
chat
Yeah.
right now talking about it. So before like a really strong move upwards, it just wicked down and stopped him out, and he didn't catch the ride up. That happened to me. I think I went. The only time I've ever margin long was before the Block 1 June announcement last year. There was that voice announcement, and I was like, well, usually, around a pump. And it ended up pumping, but where I had my stop set before that initial pump, it went down, wicked me out I was I don't even know, the target was on me. I was like a deer during deer season, but basically stopped me out, and I didn't catch any of that upwards trajectory. So that's enough TA. I mean, we're talking on Dimitri's desk on Tuesdays and Fridays if you guys want to check it out. Guys, we have a ton of stuff to get to. There's about 17 of you guys in the chat right now, so we appreciate you guys showing up. Please leave a like if it's your first time, or if you're just a regular guest here. We appreciate it. Please comment in the channel. That's what we have it for. We got a lot of stuff to get to, man. We'll get to quick news here in a second. Zeus Capital has that vendetta that they've been targeting the Link Marines, and the Link Marines have been fighting back a little bit. We've got Dan Larimer. Thank God. You've seen my tweets about Block 1. I know you know my feelings about Block 1. I think I put it in a rant like 2 weeks ago. Block 1 has been absolutely silent. Not silent, but they've, for all intents and purposes, been silent, whereas most of the crypto community and the founders and the CEOs and the teams, the foundations behind a lot of these big projects have been super active, kind of understanding that the crypto market is not very rational, and it's not about the tech. We'll talk about Tendies later, this 10 token, and the memes that essentially are driving millions of dollars in volume on these various tokens. So Block 1 finally gets in the game. Dan is tweeting up a storm. I'm pretty sure he clapped at Hoskinson. We've got some Ethereum stuff. We got EOS, DeFi, and NFTs, guys. This is going to be a great episode. So before we get started, man, do you have anything before we jump into quick news and then we hit discussion?
Man, you got me going with this TA. I was excited. I was on the roll. But yeah, tomorrow, in Dimitri's desk, we can definitely get into, most of it, because volatility is up. I think it's important that people adjust their trading plans now.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Yeah, and guys, YouTube is absolutely like railroading Dimitri right now. You guys need to help him out, share his videos. He is just getting railroaded by YouTube right now. We're trying to figure out why, but until that time frame comes, please get on over there and listen to his stuff. So
I'm in that YouTube gulag right now.
Are you gonna? The only question is, do you get out? That's the only question. All right, so we got quick news, guys. I'm gonna hit Coinbase and Zeus Capital really quick. I'm gonna pull up the Coinbase news really quickly on this article. Basically, Coinbase is revealing 19 cryptocurrencies that they're reviewing to add to their platform. Now, there used to be a time back in the day where this announcement would pump tokens like crazy. You would hear like Coinbase is adding EOS, or Coinbase is adding ADA or something like that past the initial 3 that they once had, and then this would pump. Now it's kind of run of the mill. The one interesting token that they're planning on reviewing for addition is Ample. So the Ample4 token, the known kind of Ponzi mechanic stable coin, I don't even know what you would call it, is looking to get reviewed. You can see that right there. They got a ton of other DeFi tokens. As you can see, we've got a ton of DeFi tokens in here. We've got Kava, we've got Balancer, we've got Curve. We haven't got an update from the Curve team on when that is actually launching. UMA is being launched. So all of these tokens are being reviewed by Coinbase for listing potentially in the future after it goes through whatever regulations and whatever review processes that Coinbase has. So pretty cool. I mean, if you're a holder of some of these tokens, you could see a potential benefit in it being listed on all these platforms. It's not nearly as big as it once was, but that is the situation there. So
Yeah, I think. I just want to mention a quick comment about Ample4. I wouldn't say really it's like a Ponzi scheme. I guess it's just the mechanic that they use in is different from everything else. To keep it like a stable coin, but I'm sure people have different opinions about it. But it's interesting, obviously, to see Coinbase. Like, hey, listen, we're gonna list that.
yeah, I'm,
Yeah.
I'm especially concerned about the tokens they're listing that have such high volatility rates, like an Ample. Like I haven't looked at the Ample price today, but I know that it's gone through severe volatility. So giving that available to maybe the very I guess new users and not as experienced users that kind of reside on Coinbase, kind of interesting. So guys, the next piece of news: Zues Capital on July 18th. Absolutely, I mean, right before or right after they filled their positions and got ready on the short side, apparently they're just going after Link, and the Link Marines are actually just like putting up a fight as you think they would. This is my conspiracy theory, guys. This is the Link Marines working with Zeus Capital to get that story. That's how high of an IQ that I think the Link Marines have, is that they're literally working with Zeus Capital to get their name out, because this is essentially a huge story, right? Like Zeus Capital's in the news, in like on Twitter, very strongly coming out and saying Chainlink and Sergey and the Link Marines are all a complete fraud. So what you had, I mean, they launched their investigative report. They have a bunch of tweets. They tweeted 3 hours ago and said, "So how did the coordinated market manipulation of Link go? Was that the pump you all expected? Sergey's running out of money to keep on buying to maintain the house of cards. Link is going to zero." So that is kind of I would love to get the community's comments here on what they think actually is happening with Zeus Capital. Is like, this is one of the most coordinated attacks I've seen on a specific token by a fund that I think has ever existed. I don't think we've ever seen. They've got photoshops here of all the Link Marines. There's I think the main quote that made its rounds in the crypto community was saying, "We have unlimited resources to go after Link. You can't short squeeze us." So you let me know what's happening. I would love to hear what you guys have to say, but Zeus Capital is absolutely trying to go after Link right now, and it's kind of it's obviously a crazy piece of news here. That's literally what their whole thread is filled with.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the traditional finance stuff that happens. So you have these activists that
Mm-hmm.
basically take positions, like for example, like Herbalife, right? When it's like Bill Ackman was trying to like short the crap out of it, say it's a scam, it's going to zero, blah blah blah. Herbalife's still trading and everything is fine. But it's like it reminds me of that same type of narrative where somebody's just aggressively saying and putting out research, calling it a scam and so on, because they obviously have probably an interest behind them, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they probably sit on a position that would benefit them if Link would go down. But I mean, man, like it's hard to put a lot of merit towards that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting portion. There is a ton of different like conspiracy theories here. Obviously, we saw another fund kind of go under recently and they were like famous for shorting ETH. I've completely forgot the name of that fund, but yeah, there's a ton of. I don't know why funds would get into this kind of chitter chatter and kind of like spat throwing with one of the most strongly and heavily kind of armed communities in the space.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, those bears are not doing too well.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, they have to deal with the community. And second of all, they have to deal with the price itself that's just constantly going against them. So you constantly have that negative equity. And if they're adding more margin to their positions, then they're throwing more fuel and, on fire and just, burning money. So I don't understand,
Yep.
what is the situation there? So
Yeah, just a quick piece of news, guys. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack there, but if unless you're a Link Marine or unless you're Zeus Capital, you really don't understand kind of what actually is happening between the two. So that's a quick news. I think Dimitri's got a couple others
yep.
we'll get to, and then we'll touch on the discussion appreciate the comments that are going on. Lily's saying Dan was on fire today. Yes, he certainly was. Kieran's actually talking about something that made its rounds in a couple of group chats that I was in, was when he was talking about kind of the token economics and how the actual token functions. And he said, wait, I wonder if Ample's algorithm is implemented in any of the exchanges. So essentially the way, Ample works, where it's, I believe, the amount of tokens is getting less, the token is also increasing, and it all surrounds kind of the price action. So the exchanges would then need to have that set up on their own platforms, which is incredibly hard to do. So I do wonder exactly what that actual process is with exchanges actually listing these DeFi tokens that have those type of token economics.
Yeah, it's gonna be super interesting. I wonder if like it would be crazy if, because Ample 4 rallied, if like Coinbase was just picking up some Ample 4s for the listing. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that's gonna roll out. Anyway, so moving along with the quick news. So news coming out here from FTX, basically talking about how they're looking to launch a decentralized exchange, and we know now, we're going to talk about later on about just decentralized exchanges in general. They've been picking up in volume quite a bit. Obviously, we know Uniswap, we know Curve, like all those are doing really, really well. FTX definitely likes to build on current opportunities that we have in the market, and DeFi and DEXs are pretty hot right now. So they're going to be launching a decentralized exchange, but it's interesting that they actually picked what kind of network they're going to be launching this on, and it's going to be on Solana. Which is something that's very interesting. But they will have compatibility with Ethereum as well, because obviously they don't want to isolate those people. So they're going to be launching that, and then they're going to have two different tokens attached to the exchange. Serum, which SRM, that's going to be basically functioning the same way as the other tokens that we know on DEXs. And then also they have the Mega Serum. And the Mega Serum, which is MSRM, is basically one token is like 1 million of regular Serum. So it's like basically like a bigger bag that you can buy. So they kind of split it into two, which is interesting. We haven't really seen that before. So they're going to be doing that. And the interesting stuff in terms of supply, Serum team and contributors kept 43% and sold 3% in a private sale that has raised 7 million to date. Obviously FTX, is a pretty big player, so they're going to gain attention and the capital to be thrown at them. And considering like how much capital just gets thrown at DeFi and DEX right now, like we both know, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see this new DEX roll out and how it's going to perform, especially the fact that it's going to be built on Solana. But that's FTX. And then the next quick piece of news is, remember that Twitter hack? So guys, this guy obviously got busted. He got arrested, and basically they're saying that he owns about $3.4 million worth of Bitcoin. And the court sets bail at $725K. The interesting part about this is that this guy actually, through that scam that he did on Twitter, he actually just got 117,000 out of it, which is like pretty small potatoes considering what it could have been. And the guy is a 17-year-old from Florida, and it's kind of interesting when you see this, because really the 117,000 is really not much if you put it in perspective what could have been done. So really it was a small price to pay to show vulnerability in in Twitter, basically. So yeah, this guy could have he kind of missed the opportunity. If you talk about the black hat, if I put on the black hat hacker, yeah, he totally missed the opportunity to get as much money as possible. But if you put on the white hat, then this is actually a pretty good bounty, or whatever we want to put it, the cost to expose this vulnerability, where if somebody's serious, like a black hat hacker that's serious, could have done way more damage.
It only makes sense that this guy was 17, because literally everybody on crypto Twitter was like, "This is what you got for this?
Yeah,
You got
exactly.
120. You could have literally hacked Trump's account and said we're gonna ban Bitcoin and just short the shit out of Bitcoin and make way more money." So yeah, definitely a situation where his age and experience might have played a factor. So. Yeah, Solana. Going back to the Solana piece really quick too. It was interesting. I pulled up the chart. One of my colleagues that I'm close to, and I want to get your opinion on this, Dima. The amount that Solana dumped in the matter of like probably minutes from, I believe. Let me see if I can't pull this up really quick. It was back, I believe, a month ago. And Solana just absolutely tanked. I think it's come like 150%, but within like a day's time, it went from $1.36 down to 80 cents. And the idea that maybe either the vesting schedules or the initial distribution, just like some whale having the amount of tokens that they're able to crash the price that quickly, is kind of maybe a red flag for potential investors. When you have like token allotments where they can just crash the price, like any old whale can do that. When nothing really was actually happening, Solana didn't catch any bad news. Like, it wasn't off like a hack, or it wasn't off any type of fundamental news. The market was doing okay at the time, and Solana sees like a 30-40% dip. I think it was even like a 50% dip in that day time period. Is that a red flag for you as an investor? Does that look like maybe the team or somebody that was on the inside has a certain amount of tokens that you maybe want to be wary for?
Not necessarily. I mean, when you have new things that are coming on to the network, I kind of compare it to, let's say, listing on exchanges, where you have new functionalities that are being implemented on the network. All these things, they introduce a new parameter for price discovery for the token on that network. So that means, when you start adding these variables, then you go through the shuffle, right? People are deciding to reprice the token based on the new demand that might be anticipated and whatnot. Maybe some players are getting out or whatnot. So it goes through this period of price discovery, and then the actual trend returns. So really, initial reactions can be very deceiving.
Got it. All right. That makes sense. Well, we've moved it on to discussion, guys. We're gonna get to it really quickly. Kieran's in the chat. Kieran's blowing up the chat right now. He's loving the conversation we've got going on. We appreciate everybody that has showed up to this point. I think we're at 16 currently. One thing we didn't get to is the initial schedule for this week. So obviously Dimitri's desk is on Tuesdays and Fridays, NFT Live on Thursdays, and then the interviews this week are actually Block Damon and Eyes DAO, which is a DAO that was announced recently by our friend Cooper Turley from DeFi Rate, I believe. But he's also got his hands in so many different things. They're kind of announcing this Eyes DAO as like a governance politician like system DAO, where they're able to go into these different protocols and kind of help them form the governance processes that they've seen on maybe Aave and Wi-Fi that they've been a part of. So we've got them. They'll explain it way better than I can, but we've got them on Thursday for release on Friday. So that's pretty much the take. That is the quick news. So we will get into discussion. Dima's got an Ava piece here, and then we'll get into ETH's birthday, man, and what we loved over the past 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, let's kick it off with Ava Labs. Obviously, we've had them on our channel. These guys are great. They're doing a lot of great things, and this recent article basically talking about how Ava Labs is focusing on DeFi and traditional finance, and it basically talks about, hey, listen, instead of kind of being that Ethereum killer, how like most protocols are trying to put themselves. Ava Labs and their Avalanche blockchain is trying to do something different. They are trying to actually bring a lot of traditional finance onto the blockchain, by using different methods like private chains that they can set up, where really like somebody like JP Morgan doesn't really care if this thing is decentralized. They just want like a better system that's going to track the settlements more efficiently, and in the end save money for them, right? Because when in traditional finance you have brokers, you have hedge funds, right? they have to keep track of the trades and they have to do settlements, and a lot of it has to do with the manual process, and it's very kind of sluggish basically, where compared to the technology that we have right now in terms of blockchain, having a database, the ledger, where you have basically, let's say, the broker that is a node and the hedge fund is a node. Those are two validating nodes to confirm the trade settlements. That is much more efficient. It's cheaper to do that. So that's what kind of Avalanche and Ava Labs are trying to push for, instead of kind of trying to take away business from Ethereum network, is what they're saying. So it is, it's interesting to see that, because we've talked about the traditional finance and how it can benefit from some of these things. If you want to talk about DeFi, like fully decentralized networks, I don't think really traditional finance is that interested in it right now, right? We're going to see some hybrid models where some of the financial institutions going to use some of the blockchain benefits to do internal settlements, not necessarily going to be public. It's probably going to be cheaper for auditing as well. So a lot of benefits that it does bring. Also, keep in mind that stablecoins obviously also have been picking up in interest. So again, Ava Labs is going to be focusing on that as well. And of course, just like most protocols, what they're doing is they're subsidizing it, so they're creating some kind of incentives in terms of bringing people to build some of these applications. The interesting part also is that since they do also open the gates for DeFi projects that are built on Ethereum to be built on Avalanche as well, that's very interesting, because it kind of reminded me for a second of, remember the time when we had like the bet dice games, right? And then suddenly the bet dice games were on like ETH, on EOS, and then like everywhere else, and it's like it took it by the storm, right? And everybody was kind of replicating these things, and they were getting paid, right, to set up that kind of shop, right, on those networks. So I mean, it's kind of bad example, but you can see some of the like similarities where, hey, listen, if I have a DeFi set up on Ethereum, and then let's say Avalanche is saying, hey, listen, you can set up probably the same thing just on our network, and we're going to pay you, and then you're going to feed off our users and so on, right? That's that's an interesting setup. But the discussion piece around this is that overall, it's like, well, you have all these networks, right? You have like EOS, you have all these Ziliqua, you have all these like Cardano and so on, right? You have all these ETH killers, and it's like, well, what's necessary, for these protocols that actually do have some functionalities that are way better than ETH, bottlenecks that are not there that ETH has. What is it going to take, for people to really kind of start, maybe not necessarily switch 100%, but maybe start diversifying, right? And start giving these some other protocols a chance, where they can build like stable coin setups and DeFi space,
Yeah, so how do you actually build out the community network that is the Ethereum moat right now is essentially the question, right? You have all of these quote-unquote ETH killers that I think that's kind of getting played out, and I think even in the article about Ava and Avalanche, where that's exactly what they were kind of explaining. Johnny's in the chat saying it sounds like Block One, and it does sound like Block One. Everyone else is trying to replicate the community that ETH has, and I'll give you a short answer. It's not going to be, although in the long term it might be the grants, the dev programs, all of these little things that will slowly kind of trickle devs into your program. That's one of the reasons why people are bullish on EOS, is because Block One has the money. They can say, hey, $1 million and come build over here, or 2 million or 3 million, whatever the hell they want to do, because they got the bag. I think it's going to be not the small little incremental things like that. It's going to be getting the 1 or 2 or 3 big, or one of those 3 big community leaders within ETH. Can you pull a huge, it's almost like influencers, right? You don't want to like pull over the small little people and the people that got 100, 200, or even like tens of viewers. What you want is the PewDiePie. What you want is these big time players coming over so that maybe the herd will follow. So
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons people are bullish on Polkadot. Gavin was a huge member of the Ethereum community. So Gavin's building Polkadot. So there's going to be people who were within ETH that say, Polkadot, let me check it out.
Seems legit,
Yeah.
yeah. But with that example with PewDiePie and like some of the like streamers, where you have streaming platforms that pay exclusive contracts, those like Mixer, for example, didn't really survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's also like it's interesting to see, hey, yeah, maybe you can get that influencer, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that the overall protocol is gonna flourish and just continue to go up and up. Yeah, it might give you a boost, but that might be a short-term boost. What they should do is probably just set up a DeFi and start like juicing the yields,
Mm-hmm.
incentivizing the yields. Now you have higher yields on those networks, and then people will be like, okay, cool, I'm moving over there, the higher yields. So subsidize that until that attracts most of the people, and then from there you can just readjust whatever. So
Well, it's funny that you bring up those EOS apps, and I believe they were on Tron. Ethereum had those, but I just don't think it was as functionable. I mean, we know this ETH protocol isn't
yeah.
as functionable, and I think there was more yield to be found on EOS and Tron, but there weren't the communities behind those gaming dApps, so that it kind of gets lost in the weeds. Like that was a huge moment for EOS, Tron, a couple other community. I think Steam had. I don't know. All of these kind of like scaling protocols. That was a big moment, and it's a lot like what DeFi is now on ETH. It really is. It was just incentivize. Like, come over here and mine this, and you get paid for it. But
Yeah, like
I feel like
staking, right?
yeah, it's
Hmm.
essentially staking. But staking, I think Mike and me had a conversation off his tweet that he had earlier. Was that staking was going to have its moment in 2019? Like staking was ready. Stake.us. We had them on the podcast. Staking facilities. All this staking situation was going to kind of have its moment in 2020 for the yield and for the APR and for the structures of the different protocols. Then DeFi came, and DeFi was like a hard stiff arm to staking, and it's kind of like it's kind of like an afterthought now. And
Yeah.
so I wonder if that was a good point you made about the gaming dApps, because I think those get like left out when we have this kind of talk of crypto in general and kind of the history of it, because that happened mostly not on ETH. It was mostly
Mhm.
on some other platforms. I mean, it did happen on ETH, but you saw the really good gains on the different protocols, and there just weren't as big a community. So
Yeah, but it did benefit, right? It was still transactions volume was getting high, right? Users were coming there to take advantage of that game. So yeah, it didn't last, I guess, is what you're trying to say, right? Because after the game was done, everybody kind of dipped out. Um, but I think there's interesting ways that some of these protocols that um, can maybe take some of these yield farmers away
mhm.
from ETH, or attract new ones, is by really just having an interest rate that's that's higher than elsewhere. So
Yeah. I mean, back to your original discussion, or your discussion piece, or your question. I think attacking the Ethereum community is going to be tough. Where do you go to kind of like discuss bringing over developers other than? I mean, I would love to kind of throw that question your way. I mean, I gave you my answer of kind of bringing you over these high impact developers or people within the Ethereum community, other than just like on a one-to-one basis kind of coming over, instead of having like a Gavin create Polkadot or somebody huge within Ethereum kind of leaving. I think that is another like point to be made here, which is the gas fees. I think
right.
I mean, dude, NFTs are just like getting hammered right now.
Hmm.
DeFi or more not high volume, but I guess high value transactions are absolutely taking over the network. Like people who are using it to transact thousands of dollars, I mean, they're complaining, but it's not debilitating
Yeah.
as it is in the NFT space specifically. But there are a ton of others that you could talk about. People that have hundreds of dollars as opposed to millions or hundreds of $1,000s. They're getting priced out of the chain in general, and I think it is on the mind of the Ethereum community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess instead of kind of fixing the issue, they end up patching it up with the band-aid. For now, it's some kind of a layer 2 solution or whatnot, right?
E
To
2.0.
Yeah, that's coming. Yeah, that's coming. But in the meantime, there is an opportunity for to kind of other networks to flex. So but yeah, I was gonna say in regards to um you're saying that kind of the ETH killer. I think overall, I think there's opportunity for the market to capture their side of the pie. For example, if let's say we do have ETH that's focused mainly on bigger transactions because the gas fees are there. Well, maybe you can use something different, which is like Valanche or whatever,
Mhm.
Zaliqua blockchain, EOS, any of those that for smaller type of transactions for some people that do have
Yeah.
small amounts to transact. So it's like it can be kind of broken down there into different market segments. And I think we know, like, to see how big DeFi has become, that there's still a lot of pie to be cut,
Mhm.
for all of these players. So
Yeah, it almost seems like NFTs and some other like low value transactions have like have to find another home, right? Like they've almost gotten pushed to the side. They're not like 1, 2 and 3 are DeFi.
right.
Like, and then the rest can go figure out something else. So you're right, layer 2 solution. Kieran's in the chat saying next year we have ETH1 now. Next year we will have ETH3, and then we will get ETH 2.0. So yeah, guys, if you guys heard that little Easter egg too, Dimitri's saying Zaliqua because I say Zaliqua, and it's we know it's Zilica, and I'm gonna tell Dimitri it's Avalanche, not Avalanche. So we both are finding a little bit of our ESL there. But anyways, we got some comments. Most of them surrounding EOS. There's a lot of talk around EOS that we'll get to here in a second, guys. We're going to talk some Ethereum stuff right now, and then we'll talk EOS probably in the next 15 minutes. But yeah, great.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I just want to add really quick. Also, important point is that the difference also between the DeFi projects out right now and Ava Labs and the Avalanche is that they're cool with the regulators,
Mm,
and that's something that's an important point. Where DeFi doesn't want to talk about regulators. Like,
mm-hmm.
we know that it's there, right? And eventually it's gonna come to regulations, and they will catch up as it grows, right? The bigger it gets, the more attention they'll get from regulators. So Avalabs does, provide kind of that setup where it's like, hey, listen, we're cool with regulators, so you don't have to have that worry as you build in some of the DeFi stuff.
Mm,
And compared to the others that are still don't have kind of the solution when it comes to if the regulations start tightening in DeFi space. And usually that happens kind of when things go south, right? So it's like if a lot of people lose money, if something crashes, like regulators are like, oh, wait a minute,
yep.
we got to start cracking down on this. Right now they have an eye on stable coins, obviously, like Tether, for
Yeah,
example.
they seem to just be wrapping their heads around stablecoins and haven't really gotten to DeFi. To be honest, I don't think regulators kind of even understand right now what DeFi is, nor and they won't, for a little while. But as we
Yeah.
continue to see the returns, I'm sure that spotlight is getting bigger on that industry. So, guys, we're going to talk a little bit more about Ethereum. We did have my discussion piece, which was it is the 5th birthday for Ethereum. So again, drop the confetti. 5th birthday. I think it did 100. I believe it's about to pass 1 trillion in aggregate transaction volume. And that is on its 5th birthday. That was a story from the block. I'll pull it up here. It's not much, but it is something. So Ethereum's 5th anniversary saw network near 1 trillion in aggregate transaction volume. So close to that $1 trillion mark. This was on July 30th. So we'll see as they continue to go. The main discussion piece I had, and we kind of just had it a little bit, but the main discussion piece I had, and I want to hear this discussion is for you guys as much as it is for me and Dimitri. What was your favorite part, or what has been your favorite narrative of ETH? So almost like you take the Bitcoin discussion. Is it a money transmitter? Is it a store of value? What's your favorite narrative for Bitcoin? Well, what's your favorite narrative for ETH, or what has been your favorite time for ETH, and where do you see it headed in the future? I know that's a
Yeah.
big one.
Yeah. I think a lot of most people are gonna just refer to the smart contract, basically. When Ethereum first introduced smart contracts, it really changed a lot of things, right? It's like when we thought about certain things where it's like we have to utilize a middleman to do something to make it happen. Well, the smart contract kind of debunks that whole thing. It's like, well, we don't need that. We can just have a program that does it automatically. You know, we do X, Y, and Z, and so on. And you know, that opened up to the gates to a lot of cool things, well, including ICOs, right? They were trying to do a lot of interesting stuff. So like the smart contracts is definitely something that is super huge for ETH, like, and you know, overall benefits to the whole industry. For me, specifically, I think just the subsector of, just if you look at Ethereum sectors, I think stable coins is something that I'm very excited about, and that release and the fact that they built on Ethereum is huge. You know, we had you know, Tether and what was the others also got set up there. And you know, it's very important also at where we are right now globally, where the demand for dollar is rising, and there's certain things where people get blocked from entering the dollar, where they might not have banking set up and so on. So you know, having stable coins is beneficial also for those people that do trade altcoins or other assets. They don't have to go through the whole dance of dropping the alt for BTC and then dropping BTC for fiat. They can just hop in and hop out of these stable coins. So that market is huge. It's going to continue to grow. And that's something that, you know, like, that's amazing that ETH was able to get that set up.
Yeah, I think we'll look back on with nostalgia on this time period in the ETH. I think once ETH 2.0 comes out, obviously as the tech improves, we'll look back in 10 years and say, man, do you remember those gas fees? Do you remember the situation that we always talked about every single week about the non-usability and it being unusable? So I think my favorite part of ETH has been, I mean, we would never have met if ETH didn't exist, because ICOs. ICO alert,
Yep.
obviously. And those ICOs were fundamentally, the reason behind them was that you're able to have the smart contract, as you're talking about there. Taking that a little bit further, I think DAOs are going to be something that people become more familiar with. I know we've had the DAO discussion. We're not going to have it today, other than Fire Eyes here in a second. But DAOs will be an interesting way to kind of take the ICO a little bit further. And what I mean by that is people will be able to kind of source their liquidity together via smart contracts and kind of build and bootstrap their own communities. So that's definitely something I'm super interested in. It might not look like 10,000 people kind of sending ETH to a smart contract and getting tokens back, but it will look like a community of maybe 10, 100, 1,000 people putting their funds together in a smart contract and funding different proposals within their different communities. So super excited for DAOs. NFTs kind of speak for themselves, although we'll see if Ethereum, because of the fees and where it goes, maybe you know, ETH 2.0 rolls out in 2 years and they're able to kind of use the community they have to continue the NFT. NFTs will exist on Ethereum. Let's just put it out that way. But I'm excited for that on other protocols as well. But certainly CryptoKitties was a fun time, and NFTs wouldn't be where they are today without CryptoKitties. So definitely NFTs and DAOs. That's Ethereum,
Man,
all the way.
you went a little bit sentimental there in the beginning. You almost made me cry there. But you know, it reminded me a little bit of a tweet that I saw during like the bear market that we were in, where it's like the guy wrote, "Hey guys, maybe the rule of moon was all the friends we made in crypto," you know. And I was like, damn, that's so good. Yeah. Like, you know, like, you meet a lot of cool people, right? You wouldn't have met without crypto. So it's like, just that itself is like amazing. So
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do. That's why I always get upset with people that flame ICOs, man. Like, most of crypto wouldn't be today, or wouldn't be what it is today without ICOs, which most of it has to surround that Ethereum ICO. But we have Cat, the great Caspi over here is in the chat. He says hello. Chris Effect AI says, hey fellas, and then Cat also says, can you Warzone through a mobile hotspot? I don't know what that is. If you want to answer that, Dima.
yeah, I don't know what he means by that, but we got the Cat in the house, the block himself. So yeah, good to have him here trolling the chat.
Mm.
He did drop something into the lads chat, which is interesting. Uh, it's
What did he
I don't know
drop?
how I feel about this, but Alex is starting to do liquidity mining on this
Oh,
token.
interesting. All right, so we win lads liquidity, win lads 100x. This is never. This is guys. We are not actually selling lads, so we want to put that disclaimer. But win lads moon. Come on now.
Yeah, yeah, that's I don't know. That's it's interesting experimental phase there for Alex. But yeah, thanks for dropping that, cat.
Yeah, we appreciate you, Kat. So we've got, let me check really quick. We've got 20 people in the chat, so we appreciate you guys showing up. I'm gonna minimize this really quick, just to kind of give it our appreciation to you guys as we continue through the episode. We've got some ETH news. I think we're going to hit this DAO politician setup that Cooper Turley, one of our good friends from DeFi Rate and just in the Ethereum community in general. And then we're going to talk about Ethereum holders having themselves a good month. So we got that here. Let me pull this up really quick. So this is the blog post by Cooper and the Eyes DAO team. So if I had to TLDR this, guys, because DAOs, again, are a little bit fringier, what they're basically trying to do here is create protocol politicians. We've seen governance kind of pop up everywhere in the crypto community, but specifically within Ethereum. And as we see decentralized governance take off, we will see, and this is their kind of thesis, we will see more protocol politicians that people will almost in the sense of a proxy. I think proxies are a great example in like staking. So like if you have an EOS setup or you have some type of DPoS setup where someone can proxy their votes to maybe someone that they trust. For example, like I remember proxying my votes to EOS Nation because they're a really big block producer and within the EOS community. So what a protocol politician would be able to do is say, hey, I know what's going on within this specific protocol. Stake your votes to me, and that essentially empowers them to make different voting situations or just different things on that specific network. So back to the actual article, they're saying today we're excited to join that conversation as Eyes DAO. Now we're gonna have these guys on at the end of the week, and we're gonna have like the whole crew. So I think 3 or 4 of the guys are gonna pop in, and we're gonna have ourselves a great discussion about Eyes DAO. So again, TLDR, basically what they're trying to do is allow themselves to be able to create better governance situations. So here's a quote from the article. Our deep navigation of both the DeFi and DAO ecosystems has presented a clear picture of key actors within token-based communities. So they're going to act almost in like a consulting manner with potential new protocols that kind of pop up here. So I'm going to try to find this within the article. I remember. All right, so they've worked with Aave, MStable, and YEarn. Obviously, those are huge protocols that rely on governance or are going to rely on governance in the future. We saw Synthetics kind of break up into 3 separate DAOs as kind of their foundation. So these are all going to be things as DeFi gets broken out, and there's debates to be had, right? Here, like some people would say, a foundation kind of breaking apart into 3 separate DAOs is kind of the team saying, peace, we're out of here. We got what we needed out of this. But the idea that DAOs will continue and governance on different protocols will continue. That's what they're trying to do here, which is create a entity to create, I guess, consult, but also help users understand, and kind of them are obviously profiting from the idea of being a protocol politician. So I know that's a mouthful, guys, but that is Eyes. We have them at the end of the week, and we'll have a great discussion with them. Did you have anything that you took away from that specifically, Dima?
Yeah. So I'm excited for that interview because I'm already thinking of questions that I would ask because like. Obviously with DAOs, it's interesting that what you mentioned, like, yeah, you have the foundation step away, and then you have basically now these like lobbyists or like the politicians, right? That they like have, let's say, a pool of tokens that they hold, and they make decisions on the behalf of the members of that network. Well, the question is like, well, what stops them from like doing something that would actually benefit them individually more than the members that are in a DAO? Do some kind of thing like that where we just start making policies and changes that not necessarily hurt maybe the members, but benefit themselves more. But if you want to go aggressively to the other side, then what if they do something that does hurt the members, and those politicians or whatever, they get set up where they can control and make changes that benefits them. The idea I get, right? If they start doing that, then the people are going to start pulling out of them, right? But if you have different pools, and you have basically the cartel, as we say, right?
Yeah.
So like it's hard to like keep like you giving up control of the governance basically to three organizations or whatever, how many there are, and you're hoping that their intention is going to be to drive this thing in the best interest of the people. But we know just from history, thousands of years, that concept doesn't really work out 100% of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, Peter, Peter from Metacartel, one of like the main guys within Metacartel. I think he's at Peter Pan on Twitter, with the Peter being 3, the E being an E. I'll throw him up here in a second, but yeah, he had a great quote about DAOs, which was, and let me make sure I get this correctly. DAOs aren't a technology issue; they're a community issue. And what I mean by that is, you can't slap a DAO on just like down and say you have a community, because the tech is there, but it's actually more the community that's there. You need to have a community in place. And the same thing that you're talking about here, slapping a blockchain on something doesn't mean it's going to get all of the animal natures and the human, not pessimism, but you get my meaning there. Just slapping a blockchain on something saying it's decentralized isn't going to make people act in everyone's best interest. So
right,
yeah,
exactly.
so definitely a good discussion. Hopefully we can have them on Friday, and that will be a lively discussion. So yeah, if you guys have any comments on DAOs, NFTs, we're getting the EOS here. Dan's been killing it on Twitter, that we'll touch here on in a second. But Dima's giving us a inside look on an ETH holder right now. What's going on?
Yeah. So there's a big kind of article came out basically saying over 90% of Ethereum holders are in profit as price surges. So make sure you check your Ethereum holdings. You might be part of that 90%. So the information basically derives from Glassnode. Glassnode, has been pretty good in terms of keeping up with stats and interesting stuff there in terms of network stats that they always put out. And recent one that they put out is basically this one, where it's like 90% of circulating ETH supply is now in the state of profit. And the interesting stuff that they mentioned is that last time they saw something like this was in February 2018, when ETH was priced at $925. But if you go back, to that specific date, and here's where I'm gonna put on my bear hat here. Basically February 2018, when we came up from $574 per ETH to all the way to 900 and something, but it topped off at 900, and basically from there we fell off. From 900 we fell off all the way down to 360, which was a 63% drop. So the price bump that we had back in 2018 from 500 to 900 was about 75%. Now, if you take a look, if we do the measurement of the price going up, let's say from $250 to where we are now, that's about 70%. So, so the question is, the first thing that kind of, arrives in my mind is that, hey, listen, if a lot of people are staying in profits, when they're gonna cash out, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they cash out, then it's going to be quite a bit of selling pressure, and they're going to start booking profits. And then some people may be waiting for the ETH to start unwinding, meaning that if you do start having big players start taking profits, it might get to the next handle where the next person is going to start taking profits, and so on, right? So having a lot of these holding in profit, it could be something that's cautious basically. Also, the interesting part is that they also mentioned that there's a few people who still hold ETH that bought it at over 1,000.
That is, and this isn't confined to ETH either, right? Like you're gonna
Yeah.
have a ton of, and that is a fair question. I mean, there's a ton of people underwater that got in top of 2017, even some that caught the wave down and thought, hey, like, Bitcoin's never going under 10K again. What are you crazy? And then so there's still people, obviously not in Bitcoin's case, but you could relay that to many other tokens that are underwater, man. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And given like the euphoria right now in the market, everybody's just
yeah.
thinking the risk appetite is high. Everybody's trying to chase the yield and so on. So
You know
we'll
what?
see.
I'm still underwater on is that damn ontology you were shilling me way back in the day.
That wasn't ontology. Hold on, it was
Wait, what
something
was
else.
it? Yeah, you got to tell
Uh,
me, man. Dimitri went full on degen into a token. Didn't tell me until he filled up his bag, and then I think he was dumping his bag on me.
you know what happened, man? I'll be honest. It was Zach's fault. Zach told me that
Oh,
I think it was OCN.
mm,
Let me
you're
see.
right. It was OCN. I don't know what. I don't even remember the project
Oh
anymore.
yeah, yeah, OCN. So it's basically Zach said, "Hey, listen, it's gonna get listed on Binance in like next week," and I was like, "Cool, yeah." So I'll pick some up. Meanwhile, he was selling. So so I picked up a
Zach
bag.
Lee, man.
Yeah, so I picked up a bag, and then I was like, "Well, what am I gonna do? Right? I gotta offset the bag with whoever I know, right? You gotta get the Ponzi scheme going here."
And on
So
down the line.
yeah,
I think the
exactly.
buck stopped with me on that one. I did not subject anybody else to that, but yeah, those are some good stories, man. Good times. So, hey, guys, we've got 18, 19 people in the chat now. Appreciate you guys following along. If you haven't already, please like the video. It definitely helps post video. If you haven't refreshed already the screen, the browser, you can refresh now, and actually the links will all appear so you can kind of follow along in what we're doing. So this has been a great episode so far, but I cannot wait to talk about the next piece, man. Because I have been waiting for Block 1 to actually say something. And as you guys know, Layer 1, we are blockchain agnostic. I love EOS. I love Ethereum too. So you're going to hear me talk about EOS. That doesn't mean I'm hating on ETH or hating on Tron, although maybe Tron gets a little hate. But anyways, guys, Brendan, Yves and Dan came out of the woodwork this week. Yves LaRose from EOS Nation, who we had him on an interview. If you guys want to check that out on our channel, you guys can find it. Maybe we can drop a link. Maybe we can't. We'll see. But Yves came out, and Yves has been on fire, man. Basically, all the marketing and all the Twitter hype that we've seen on every other token, it feels like every other community, we had been waiting for something from the EOS community, and Yves, Dan, and Brendan delivered. So we're going to touch on it really quick. As you can see, I'm kind of excited. Dan Larimer is one of the obviously founders of BitShares. He's founder of Steemit. I mean, he is one of the biggest names in the space, but he's been silent, man, and people have given him a lot of hate for being silent. But I'm gonna specifically take you through one situation, guys. Charles Hoskinson, Cardano. You guys know that Charles and Dan don't like each other. If you didn't, I just told you they don't like each other. So they're talking here about how Cardano is delegated proof of stake, and Charles comes in and says Dan lied. Now Dan's not on this thread yet, but he came in and said Dan lied. We are not a DPoS protocol. Again, read our paper. So Charles is defending himself at the same time that he's farming every other day, and then Dan comes in with from the top rope and says your protocol doesn't work for applications other than currency. The confirmation latency is too long for most of DeFi and completely unsuitable for most use cases. What are the material facts I am wrong about? So he came down, and then Charles came and said, here are some of my chickens, Dan. I get fresh eggs every day. Best of luck with EOS. So interesting take by Charles there. And then Dan comes in from a higher rope and says, if I told people that I was getting fresh eggs daily, someone would complain that I should stop farming and work on EOS. Perhaps this explains why Cardano development is so slow. So I don't know. What do you think about that, Dima?
Dude, I love that. It just having like these like founders just duke it out on Twitter. It's just amazing. It just it always reminds me of that story that Mike remember when we were at ICO?
Yes.
Oh my god, that was hilarious, dude. You want to tell the story, or should I?
Yeah, I mean, you go ahead, because I got a ton that I need to get to for
Okay.
EOS. So I don't want to, talk
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
next 10 minutes straight.
Yeah, just really quick. So we had our ICOler booth, and we had these cutout boards, basically of these major founders, and
Vitalik and
Vitalik, Charles, Dan Lermer. Oh no, we didn't have Charles. We didn't have.
no, we didn't. That's a key. That is key.
Yeah. So we had Dan Lermer, Vitalik, and like some others. And then Charles comes up to the booth, and Mike sees him, but he doesn't recognize him, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Charles picks up the cutout board of Dan Lermer, and Mike goes like, "What? Hey, you want to be, you want to be Dan Lermer for a day?" And then Charles just looks at him and just drops it and walks away.
And meanwhile, Gall, who is obviously the host of Everything EOS, is a big EOS supporter. He's got his finger on the pulse. He's watching this whole thing, and he just runs up to Mike afterwards, and I was like, "Do you know who that just was?"
So, I wish I was there, man, to witness it.
That would have been great. That is an all-time story. All-time story. So on long top, like even though Mike kind of indirectly went from the top rope, Dan was going from a higher rope, and he's just been active on Twitter, right? Which is what we've been asking for. A lot of we again, going back to my initial point earlier in the episode, a lot of these tokens, whether wrong or right, I mean, there have been millions of dollars that have flowed in volume and liquidity into these tokens. Some of them based on memes. I mean, when you have, some of it is, and I'm gonna go back to like a foundational point. Like Elon Musk was tweeting about Dogecoin. Let's talk about that. Like a lot of these foundational tokens have started as memes. Chainlink is a great example. Like they've really come to the forefront because of their community and their ability to produce memes. So even though people might think it's wrong, which I don't necessarily disagree with, memes kind of drive some of the market right now, and that's where we're at. So
meme marketing is fantastic. That's actually a lot of traditional companies use that as well. It's crazy. The return on that is insane.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You made a fantastic point there, because I think Bloomberg used a specific consultant or some type of marketing agency during his campaign, and he really got a lot of viral content because he went after Twitter and TikTok and all these things where other politicians were going through like standard routes. So, yeah, Dan.
So what's the reason why Dan has been MIA for some time? Because like I do understand like some people probably like big figures tend to deal a lot with things on Twitter in terms of there's a lot of trash, right?
Yes,
we'll talk trash and it's kind of negative and gets to you. Sometimes you have to take the break from Twitter. Is that kind of what happened there, or like what's the reason behind him?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think like mainly to answer your question, I think Dan is very technologically focused and more on developing the product. Obviously, he's working on developing code for EOS. Also, I think voice was a lot of his baby, so I think he's behind the scenes working, and just like decided not to get out in front of us, which is not what we're used to. And a lot of detractors will say, well, that's because they received the bag, right? Like when they were marketing EOS back in the day, when it was before mainnet launch and the sale was live, Dan was in Telegram all the time, like Johnny's saying. So yeah, I'm not Dan, so I can't answer that question, but we're definitely happy to see him back. Whether somebody got into his ear and was like, listen, alt season's here, it's time for you to start to put in work. I don't know the reason for that. Now, he still has some lingering fundamental values. I'll give you one here. Let's see. He had a recent quote, and someone had, let's see, I'm going to try to find this, but basically what he was saying was that they did their job in developing the product, which it goes back into your thoughts, like why isn't he kind of on Twitter and talking about EOS? Well, because he feels like he kind of followed through on developing the product. Does that, you kind of get where I'm talking about? Here he is. He said, we did it. So CryptoPunk here says, then when are you going to make EOS user friendly? Because EOS is too complicated with RAM, CPU, etc. Dan says, we did our part and released code to fix resources. Now we are working to educate block producers and community. It's ultimately app devs that control experience. Many have succeeded.
No, I agree in that sense, and also from Dan's perspective, like he's obviously a high level developer, and perhaps maybe the user interface and other things that would attract people is not his main, kind of skill or whatnot. So he's relying on people to take that and do it
Yeah.
from where it is now.
Yeah, he's been involved in community related projects, right? Like Steam he loves the aspect of social media, so that's something that interests him. We'll see. It might have just been like, hey, I need 6 months off of this thing, so or I need a year off. Okay, so the second part of this is Brendan and Yves. So there's a couple different EOS stories here to get to. One that kind of fills in, and some people might say why Yves is kind of on the cusp of just like releasing absolutely phenomenal information on EOS. He's kind of holding the cards close to his vest. Something about August 15th. So August 15th, I believe, August 14th, there's specifically this one announcement from, a couple people within the industry, including Yves, that August 15th is going to be something big for EOS. Now, we don't know, and certainly this is them playing the game finally. We've been waiting on the announcement game from EOS and Block 1. So Yves started off by updating his profile picture. So that lets you know where he's headed. And then so his first tweet goes, "The floodgates are about to open. I hope you're ready. We've been preparing for this for the past 2.5 years. Enjoy." So people are starting to be like, "Hey, what's going on? What's going on?" Now he continues to go on. He says, "It won't feel good to know you've held on. We're there when it happened. This is what dreams are made of." And he goes on to say EOS, not EOS.io, which is a complaint around people from the community saying more stuff needs to be built on EOS and not just given away to like Wax is built on EOS.io. So in EOS holders kind of feel jaded that you see so much success there. Nothing goes back to EOS. So let's continue to go.
Announcement of an announcement, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't seen that in a while.
Exactly. And I'm only showing his tweets, but he continues to go on. The last one I believe he said was, "Is this thing on? Testing, 1 2 1 2. Great, sounds good. EOS." So all of this is just like prepping the stage for what is about to come on August 15th. Now that might lead to a significant dump. Who knows? We've seen a lot of announcements happen for EOS and they kind of fall flat. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. August 15th is this date that we're throwing on. The only other thing I'll say about this is Block 1 has started to announce and start to allocate funds in their new proxy. So we know about the initial 10 million that was kind of being used to vote for different block producers within the industry, kind of figure out the voting, not referendums, but requirements, kind of showing that. Well, they're ready to throw their $85 million or 85 million EOS along with that initial 10. So almost close to 100 million EOS now will be used in a proxy to vote for different block producers. Would this be one of the reasons Yves is tweeting so much about EOS?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting. Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you, how is that working out? Because last time we've talked about, B1 getting involved in, voting for some of the validators. Everybody's like, well, which ones are they going to vote for? Which ones they can not vote for? Right? They can really stir up some conflicts there. How's that overall progressing? Like, is things are going smoothly there, or
no, that's a great question, and I think they released a couple posts. Brendan's been tweeting about it as well. Brendan's done a great job tweeting over the past, I believe, 2 months, so I don't want to discredit him, but having Dan in the space too. But Brendan was tweeting, I believe, like a couple weeks ago, saying that he appreciated kind of the voting that was happening up to this point. As you know, like, or maybe don't know, Block 1's not handling this themselves, right? They have a I forgot the actual name, but they got the guys from EOS New York kind of absorbed into Block 1, and they're currently heading up like the community initiatives. So those are the guys that are responsible for figuring out who we're voting for. There were a couple.
Wait a minute, isn't New York EOS? Aren't they like kind of not cool with the East or what?
I think
there's some beef. I think.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit back in the day. I think
okay.
everyone realized. I think everyone realizes the chain is going to work better if we continue to work together. So that is a great question though. Maybe we have Block 1's played it very close to the vest. So I don't know if we can get anybody from Block 1 on, but maybe somebody significant within the EOS community we can have on, maybe even Yves, once this August 15th rolls around. So to answer your question, they've laid out some initial requirements, and Brendan has said that they voted, and so to lay the foundation, the EOS New York guys in their community initiative have voted for exchanges, and Brendan has come out and said, listen, like, I'm okay with voting for exchanges as long as they have a proxy tool ready for their users. So as long as they implement some type of proxy tool, I'm okay with voting for exchanges. That's my personal opinion. Now, there have been exchanges that don't have the proxy tool on the voting. So to answer your question, that's the only thing I've been hearing back. That it's been going well. They've voted for a rotating number of block producers, but Brendan does not like voting for the large exchanges that don't have a proxy tool on their website.
I see. Yeah,
So,
Johnny is saying EOS Nation doesn't play around. Just a heads up.
yeah. Yeah, they don't, man. And I'm working on, I'm talking with Steph. Me and Steph are NFT enthusiasts. Steph Bison, he's on EOS Nation as well. So we talk all the time. So hopefully I'm trying to get the EOS Nation guys on for that August 15th release or sometime around then, whatever it is. It's so wrapped in mystery. But thank God Dan is back. Dan is a breath.
Pump my bags, Dan.
I'm not going to say no to that. So, yeah, that's the story, guys. EOS Nation is kind of unleashing a lot of hopium right now, and the block producing, or the proxy that B1 is announcing, they're putting their weight in 85 million worth of EOS behind that. So that's all happening. A lot of great things to be announced within EOS here over the next week and a half. It's a good time to be in EOS right now. You see a lot. You see a lot of good information coming. Obviously, can they take advantage of the gas fees that are happening on EOS? We've talked about it with Ava already with the Avalanche protocol. Can EOS do it? Who knows? But I hope that we can grow. Again, I'm going back to this point, man. I love all these protocols. I'm not against either one. EOS gets a ton of FUD. ETH gets a lot of unnecessary FUD from maybe the outside communities. Hopefully we can all grow this pie together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. And it's great to see, like, all these news kind of coming out, and exciting stuff with EOS. And then you see some of that reflected in the price action on EOS as well. So, so yeah.
It's just fun when everyone's better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares? I get it. Some people's livelihoods are tied up in these different protocols, so they don't want to see one succeed over the other. But it's just, crypto's more fun when they're better.
There's enough playground for everybody, I think. So instead of just fighting, and I think overall protocol leaders are realizing that as well. So there's no need to fight. You try to work together so you can incorporate to work with both chains and so on. So
yeah,
it's just, obviously, there's a lot of talk about the kind of the religious side of it, where people get into these cults of groups and like, hey, this is the one, this is the protocol, and this is gonna be the only one, nobody else. So
yeah. Scott's in the chat saying EOS is actually pretty easy to use, easier than ETH. So there's definitely some arguments to be made, but I completely agree with you on that. So let's move on to DeFi. We got some DeFi stories. Can't have an episode without DeFi these days. What's going on in DeFi, man?
Yeah, so to kick things off, we're just going to talk about decentralized exchanges. All right, well, with the pickup in volatility that we had, so just to give you a perspective, like I've tweeted out the sentiment analysis yesterday, and I talked about that the volatility overall for BTC, just BTC, has doubled since last week, right? And with more volatility, we should be expecting more volume in exchanges, right? And we're seeing that as well. We saw in Coinbase, who had more than 100% jump in their trading volume, where they were absolutely getting wrecked before. The volume has been dropping like crazy. Futures volume has been dropping like crazy before the volatility increased. So the volatility essentially brings volume, right? We know that because the prices swing, people either getting stopped out liquidated, or people are getting in because to chase the volatility and opportunities in the market. But decentralized exchanges, basically this article is talking about, has surged to 4.3 billion in July as far as the trading volume goes. If you take a look, if you had to guess, which exchanges did pull in the most volume.
Listen, guys. I had that image up on the screen, but I wasn't looking at it. I was just
oh
showing
no,
you guys. No, I'm not cheating here, so I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess Uniswap is probably the leader.
Yeah, absolutely. Uniswap basically accounts for 41% of the volume of 4.3 billion, right? So when you talk about DEXs, it's important to underline that, right? So it's really the DeFi stuff, right? We have the Uniswap and we have also Curve that accounts for 24%, right? But then regular DEXs that we know that don't really utilize the DeFi mechanics, it's like they're not really doing all right. Their volumes are up, right, because of the volatility, but it's not as significant as it might seem, right? You just have to keep that in mind.
Yeah,
He's
bothering me.
There's the Doge. But yeah, so it was very interesting to see that. Obviously, the volume is going to be continuing to go up for Uniswap and Curve, and 4.3 billion in July it's a pretty big number.
Is IDEX on that list?
That's a good question. Let me take a look. Oops.
Yeah, Alex and IDEX have consistently done a good job, so he's out of here.
Let me see. Yeah, IDEX is on there. Trying to see. Doesn't break down. Let me see the volume here.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of growth in the DeFi space. I think it's more sustainable than some people at first were giving it credit for. One of the things that was interesting was after that crash that we had, people almost felt like ETH and BTC were going to range for a little bit. So you saw the DeFi tokens start to creep back up there, man. You saw a little bit of money flow back into the DeFi space there. So
yeah, it's interesting to see based on this DEX historic market share chart is that IDEX used to own basically the majority of the trading volume, but since then it has contracted significantly, and right now it's like almost like only 5% of the volume traded. So it's like it continues to kind of shrinking there.
Yeah,
So.
Uniswap just kind of came in and stiff-armed the whole market. But we've got Ola in the chat. He says, EOS is going to rule the world, guys. Kidding, LOL. Ola's also saying, does the Doge own Doge tokens? Certainly, I don't believe he hasn't disclosed to me his holdings. So he might. He may
By the
not.
way, with TikTok being soon banned here in the US, I think it's a bearish or bullish for Doge. What do you guys think? Let me know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let us know in the channel TikTok. The TikTok fallout. So we've got a little bit on Wi-Fi as well. Wi-Fi has been absolutely taking over. I think there's a great interview from the FTX podcast on Wi-Fi and Andre Conhe. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I thought the guy he seemed like a really interesting cat, man. He's obviously a former developer. He kind of built the tool for himself before kind of unleashing it, because it's like an automated yield allocation kind of farming tool. So, what's going on with Wi-Fi?
Got me while taking a sip, but
nah,
all right.
Good.
So this article is actually not about specifically about Wi-Fi, but it's interesting that it talks about how a Wi-Fi fork, which is called Asuka, and the creator of it basically did an exit scam.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes back to something where it's like, when you have these kind of setups, let's say like Wi-Fi or other DeFi projects and utilities and tools that are coming out, people are quick to engage with those tools without really doing the understanding of or due diligence and so on, right? How safe it is and whatnot. So basically this fork Asuka, this guy, Jung Chang, the Korean creator, let me see, a fork. He created the fork, and basically the token got up to trading of $1,600 per piece. And when the whole thing unwinded, it reportedly tanked to all the way to $19.
Yeah.
But the whole thing about it is that this guy basically exit scammed. He took, he dumped and he took the money and ran. He sent the DAI to Binance. and everybody was kind of red flagging that. And apparently he made only like $30,000, which is like, like not much,
Yeah.
considering the fact that this guy absolutely wrecked his career in crypto. Like, what I'm saying?
Agreed.
Like the faces, we know the person, right? This is going to be labeled as a scammer with any type of new things that he's going to be doing. And 30 grand to, for that, like, come on. Let's be realistic here. So it just opens up something that I've talked about too. Like when we talk about DeFi, is that you really have to be careful because there's such a uprising with all these new DeFi tools, utilities, platforms coming out, and people are quick to jump on it because they don't want to miss out on the yield that it's going to provide. Because people that get in earlier, they tend to get more yield than the others. So they miss out on due diligence and stuff like this happens. This is not as bad as it could have been, but with the same trend kind of continuing, I just hope people do their diligence and not hop in and be blinded by the greed, basically, that DeFi is currently offering, and just to be careful.
Yeah, DeFi is absolutely operating at like the most breakneck speed that I've ever seen. Like as you try to understand Wi-Fi itself, you've got two forks, and it's different than maybe forking something that isn't. Let me go back. I think this specific market is so much different than what we saw in 2017 with ICOs. I think everything is moving so quickly and these things are happening that you're right. People do need, and you out there need to be careful with what the hell is going on. We're about to talk about another token here in a second, Tendies, that people have made, a lot of money trading this thing, and there's a lot of like, I say Ponzi mechanics, but I not in a negative way. I think I think that might be the first time anybody's ever said that specific quote. But I think like there's innovations happening, but also a ton of things that people should be, very, very scared to kind of get into if you don't know and you aren't experienced. So if you're often like hearing about these things, and certainly there's an opportunity to maybe get in at a later point, but a lot of these things are being growthed on 4chan forums, Reddit forums, and kind of making their way out to the world. And by that point, the opportunity the risk to reward ratio is incredibly different than if you were in these communities. So my advice to you is if you want to get involved in this, and this is not financial advice, you need to get into these forums and communities and immerse yourself. But it's so hard to do. Everything it's moving at such a breakneck pace. So we've got some users. Any links to Dan's writing? So some users, we link everything in the description below. You can definitely check that out right now, or even post episode. What specific writing are you talking about? Are you talking about his tweets that kind of came up over the past week? I can definitely link some of those for you. So I think that's a pretty good point to touch on, man. I think Wi-Fi is a tool that will be used in the future. I mean, it has general utility. You can allocate to these different yield farming as opposed to trying to figure it out yourself to these different protocols. It's still a risk. You're holding a token that has seen volatility from like 20, 30, 40%. And the other way, even 100, 200% in very short amount of time. So.
Yeah, I wonder if Wi-Fi. I don't think it's listed on FTX. But the thing is, it's like I don't think it's traded with leverage. Oh yeah, it is. Wow, new. Ha! Of course it is.
Are you on so you got to leave the podcast, or you got to leave the episode right now? Then to do this.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. Well, good luck trading that with leverage, knowing this thing swings like crazy.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you can see you can see the volatility just from like just a 7-day, 14-day, just any type of chart you throw up. You can see the volatility on these things. Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna. The best thing we can do is have experts on the actual channel, right? We cover a broad breadth, and we've certainly done our research on a ton of different things, but nowhere near as much as somebody who's actually creating the product. So, would love to get Andre on here in the future, but We're going to move on here. We're going to touch on Tendies very briefly. This is another situation, guys, where you need to be super careful, but I did figure I'd bring it up. Tendies was created by an anonymous dev team, and it kind of blew up in the Twitter sphere that of like, I guess the more experienced crowd, like we're talking about. It kind of grew out of 4chan and Reddit, but it's a next, and I'm going to read it directly here. It's a next generation autonomous hyper deflationary coin. So you guys can check it out on tendies.dev. There were a ton of different, and I might be able to pull it up here. Let me just pull up a random. I'm going to search Tend with the ticker symbol, and you'll see the amount of memes that were created for this different token, and it just took off. And over the past, I believe, we can pull it up on CoinGecko too. Over the past week, just a week, man, 100x, like just incredible growth for these essentially tokens that are creating these. I don't want to call it Ponzi-nomics, but essentially they're using token economic models that favor those that are in now. Obviously, the first couple that are in, and it's just creating token economic models that people definitely aren't experienced with and haven't seen, and they're trying to meme it into existence. And for some of these, they definitely have succeeded. So Tendies kind of took over. I'm having trouble finding it. Let me see if I can. All right, so it came out on the market August 2nd. So literally a couple days ago, dropped all the way down to 66 cents. Actually, that's a 24-hour. I'm sorry. So it came out on the market at looks like 20 cents, shot up to almost $1, and has ranged ever since it kind of topped out at $1 or near there. So again, a ton of volatility to be had. But essentially, if you guys want to check that out, it's a hyper deflationary coin. So I'll read it from the features here. The first thing that they have here is this is a social experiment. As with all cryptocurrency investments, risk is always present and should be accounted for before participating in the sale. So there's a high probability of getting wrecked here if you don't know what you're doing. But what they're trying to create is a situation and a token economic model that favors those who get in first. And that sounds like a Ponzi. Some people might argue that it's a Ponzi, but it is an interesting case study on the different markets that are happening. You can see Justin Sun here with his Tendies bucket. You can see just a ton of different memes, and it just made its rounds in the crypto community right now. So yeah, again, maybe we can have somebody from the Tendies on, even though it's an anonymous team. I would love to get somebody to kind of break this down. But again, there's not much to break down, right?
I think that's the first red flag, man. Like anonymous team, and then it's like you're talking about 4% of 10 coins allocated in Uniswap pool are drained daily.
Yep.
And 51% of drained 10 are burned daily, and then 48% of drained 10 are distributed to the top 50 holders every 3 days. Like, bro.
Yep.
Oh my God.
It is an interesting time. And like you said, with DeFi's kind of ascent here, what you're going to see is a lot of these experiments. And, some people are going to make a ton of money. Some people, for the most part, people should stay away from these type of things. But for those that are experienced, you'll see a ton of this. And I think it's worthy of kind of explaining to people what's actually happening within DeFi right now and all the different experiments that are happening. I don't think you can... I don't know how much volume it's taken in, but it's certainly hit a certain valuation over the past. And it's just an anonymous dev team that's creating a deflationary token.
I'll be honest. It sounds less of a social experiment, more like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
It's like I can see Kieran was already laughing about it. He's saying almost as bad as hacks. Yeah.
Yep. Hey, but I think it's important to kind of bring these situations up and not just act like they're not happening, right? Like we can't just not talk about Hex not happening. And plenty of people made a lot of money on Hex, so it's just important to talk about these things. Certainly, we're not advocating you get in, but we're kind of giving you the information. It was kind of just and then the other side of the argument there again is the meme aspect, right? Like you have to keep, this is, I think, the future that we're going to be living in. Like things are going to be memed into existence, and some will be important, some won't. just like ICOs. Some will be important, some won't. But it is important to see the importance memes are playing within the ecosystem and communities today.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Memes become dreams.
exactly.
Yeah, so I can't wait for Kieran to hit me up to chart some Tend charts here soon. My man, he loves doing that.
Yep, yep. All right, guys. Well, we are almost about to finish up here. We got NFTs. I love talking NFTs. It's something I just am fascinated with and in the growth behind that industry. So we're gonna talk NFTs here real quick. So the Wax team has been absolutely killing it with a lot of the sales. As you guys know, they've been running the Garbage Pail Kids sales. They've been raising somewhere in the average of like 200K with these Garbage Pail Kids. So they ran the first series, sold out within I think 2 days. Ran the Tiger King series about the Tiger King, Carol Baskin and that lot, and they ran that, and I think they sold out, within 24 hours. So those each, I believe, average raised about 200K. William Shatner. Now this is a little bit more, we're talking Tendies and William Shatner on this episode, so I feel like we've hit a new low as far as Layer 1 is concerned. but we have a new sale on the Wax blockchain. Sold out in 9 minutes, 200K. Wax has been doing these sales, and they've certainly been successful at it. They're going to continue to bring IP in, but I thought it was important to kind of break this down. Obviously, I think me and Kieran were actually taking part in this sale together. We were able to kind of trade different shards to kind of put together. But we, just another sale that Wax is doing. They're going to have a continuous run of these sales. People who are investing in these trading cards and in these collectibles are seeing a return on them. Some, it depends on your strategy and things like that, but it's good to see NFTs continuously kind of, get more and more popular. And it's crazy that this one sold out in 9 minutes. I think the supply was a little bit less than the last few sales, but this sale actually, was pretty successful. So good to see that. If you're interested, you can obviously find Wax on Twitter and wax.io. You can go and see the different type of sales that they have coming up.
Yeah.
So the only other one that we've got speaking of sales, we've got another Wax sale, Blockchain Heroes, that's set to kind of be released here within the next, I believe, a couple days. I think it's August 4th. They're planning on doing a sale for these. These are interesting. They're collectibles based on, people within the crypto community. So I think they have a chance to specifically be a little bit more interoperable between chains, not technically, but kind of the community base. So you'll have people that are in the ETH community try and scoop up some type of Vitalik looking blockchain collectible and things like that. So definitely good to see out of the Wax team there, and they're certainly killing it. Flow is another one that we've talked about for a while, so Flow will be interesting, and then all that good stuff. So
Yeah. And the last piece of news as far as NFT things go, basically OpenSea, which is a beautiful platform for, finding new NFTs to buy and sell and so on, is saying, basically saying that it's the Uniswap of NFTs. So they've reached the 20,000 users. They actually surpassed the 20,000 users, which is, relatively small, right? If you would say, but they have over 9 million assets across 300 types of, broken down into following categories: domain names, virtual art, and so on. Right, it's been growing quite a bit. There's volumes backing it up in terms of how much has been traded. In July, there was 730,000. The peak that was actually traded on OpenSea was back in October 2019, which was 1.8 million. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, NFT markets have been recently blowing up, and there's interesting things that are coming out, right, with collectibles and so on, right, entering the markets. We're waiting to see maybe some sports that are going to be coming out, sports cards and UFC cards and whatnot, right? All of these things that are still on a docket to be introduced into NFT, and we'll see how that's going to impact the overall volumes. Because right now, it's too early to compare it to Uniswap, right? But I get the idea, right? They're listing a lot of new NFTs. It is kind of the go-to platform. just like Uniswap lists a bunch of tokens, and you can just trade it there with no problem. So it's kind of has some of those elements. But as far as where DeFi is and where NFT is, I think NFT does have quite a bit of room to go to the upside, because NFT's already been blowing up, but that DeFi has been already blowing up, but NFT is still kind of picking up slowly there.
Yeah, the images between the valuations of like the NFT industry and the DeFi industry, or just the crypto market in general, is just mind-boggling. It's like a single small isolated dot in like a huge ass circle. So those valuations, I'll see if I can find it, but I might not have enough time. But yeah, the NFT industry certainly has a ways to grow and a lot of room to grow within it. So that should be interesting. OpenSea, again, like Rarible launched their token the other day. I think like last month. The Rari token hasn't seen much success, but I'm interested to see the features that OpenSea rolls out to kind of increase its market share when it comes to kind of just being the go-to NFT marketplace. Yeah. So yeah, we'll have Devin Finzer on here maybe in the next couple months. I know we had him on sometime last year, but it'd be good to catch up with the OpenSea guys again. They have been doing a good job. So that's pretty much it, man. That's the episode for this Monday. We appreciate you guys kind of staying till the end here. We will always, bring you the best crypto news. If you guys want to hear more types of information, please go ahead, leave it in the comments. For all the lads here that I'll see, I'll be able to send 50 lads to everybody that was in the chat today. So you guys are rewarded, and we'll start rolling out some utility so you can actually start doing things with those lads tokens. But what are you looking forward to this week, Dima? I know
Tomorrow,
you can chill Dimitri's
yes.
desk. Here we go.
Yes, tomorrow. I'm super excited to talk about the recent volatility and where we are in the market. Kind of talk about readjustments that need to be done, for the traders that watch me. And it's gonna be super interesting. It's always interesting to talk about the market when things are moving. When things are slowing down, it's like, when is it gonna move? So definitely join me tomorrow 5 p.m. Eastern, Dimitri's desk. We're gonna talk about this market, and then I'm looking forward to the Friday interview. Honestly, that's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, that's gonna be an awesome time. We're gonna have hopefully all of the guys from Fire Eyes on one channel, which is like 4 of them. So that should be a good interview. We have Block Damon tomorrow. We'll release that on Wednesday. NFT Live on Thursday. We've added Ronan into the channel a little bit to kind of co-host that. He's got his finger on the pulse of the NFT industry. So ton of good stuff to get to this week, guys. As always, we appreciate every single one of you. You guys are awesome. Scott saying thanks for the show, y'all. Thank you, Scott. But till next time, Dimitri, you want to send us out? What's the happy trading?
Yeah, happy trading. No, that's for Dimitri's desk. We got to think of something for Layer1Live until next time or something like that.
Until next time, guys. We'll see you.
Boom.
Bang.